One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. A number of people who are listening to this recording probably know that, the softball program at South Alabama was launched just in 2007, so not even 10 years ago. And yet, Coach Clark has had some significant success over the past 9 seasons, a number of 40-win seasons, a number of trips to the NCAA tournament. What are the ingredients that are in place at your all's place from a softball standpoint and with Coach Clark leading the program that have led to really such quick, high-level winning totals and postseason access?
I think initially it's the continuity of her leadership from the birth of the program to where we've gotten to and to where we are today. She has been steering that ship, and I think sometimes we undervalue continuity. And to me, that is key for our softball program with Coach Clark. I think, secondly, what Coach Clark does as good or better than any coach I have ever worked with is she is extremely meticulous and clear with who they are, what the program's culture and values are, and those values and that culture are extremely clearly communicated throughout the recruiting process. Prospects know exactly what's expected of them and exactly what it's going to be like, and that carries through to their experience at the University of South Alabama. Coach Clark has very elevated expectations, both competitively, academically, and in the community. And she demands that of herself, of her coaching staff, of her student athletes, and of the support staff surrounding that program. So whether it's media relations, strength and conditioning, athletic training, sports medicine, marketing and promotions, game operations, ticket sales, everybody that touches the softball program is expected by the head coach, who is the definite leader of that program, to get after it and to stretch themselves. And so I think that in and of itself is probably the most influential aspect of why the softball program has experienced success at a relatively young age and has sustained that success, is just very clear expectations and very clear accountability.
So one of the topics on the softball front that I'm interested in your view of is, it does seem like in the sport of baseball over the last, say, decade, we've seen a number of brands and new brands come onto the scene. I'm thinking Coastal Carolina to go along with stalwarts like Fullerton and Irvine, and now Santa Barbara's been to Omaha a number of times. And maybe we haven't quite seen a lot of new blood from a softball standpoint, and I'm going to use the term mid-major, but you and I both know that's a terrible term when it comes to these sports, because there are programs that maybe in the revenue-generating sports would be deemed mid-major, but in sports like baseball and softball, because of their history, because of their geographic location, because of their leadership, which you just talked about, they have the potential to make it to Omaha or Oklahoma City every single season. But what do you think is the tipping point for softball? When will we see more of these new type of brands? We've seen Lafayette a couple times, maybe Southern Miss, 10, 20 years ago. USF made it a couple years ago. UMass in the late 90s. What's the tipping point to get more of these new brands back to Oklahoma City?
I think it's just a matter of time. And I also think I don't have any empirical evidence on this, but I do think it is related to the development of women's athletics, of which one is softball, of which, in my opinion, in the 90s, in the sport of collegiate baseball, these programs like South Alabama, programs like those that you mentioned, started to really develop their facilities, started to really find and hire and retain very talented coaches, and thus the amount of parity, if you will, or the number of teams that were capable of a level of success regionally and nationally started to grow. And I see that happening in softball, where, you know, in my opinion, it starts with the head coaches. And due to the success and the growth of softball nationally and internationally, there are more qualified and capable coaches. Institutions have invested in the sport of softball, whether it's coaching staffs, whether it's operational funds, whether it's facilities. And so I think it's just a matter of time where you are going to have more people get on that dance floor, and newer names and from different regions of the country. And so I think it's a great question, and I look forward to where it goes in the next 5, 10, 15 years.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.